see the works of three important researchers who are trying to answer this puzzle in force as to why people get involved in this process which does not involve any incentive, mainly in terms of money. When a talented programmer contributes something and does not get money in return, then why should he do it is a question. This question is being answered by three different people is what we are trying to see. As I said, economists have this problem with seeing the world with the lens of money. Because they feel money is a basic incentive which makes people work. Some of the ideas which have been developed over the years has reduced money to a very strange idea. I don't know whether I shared this story with you or not, but it's worth repeating even if I have told it before. This tells how money gains value in modern days. This looks like a paradox, but gives you enough material to think for some time. The paradox starts like this, that there is this small town wherein I am told this. Let me repeat. Those who haven't heard. There is a small town wherein there is this lot which has, say, around 100 floors. One day, a person comes who is new to the town, he wants a place to stay, so he comes to the lot and he asks the manager whether he can get a room. The manager says, yes, very well, why can't? He insists that he wants to see the room, but the manager says he should deposit something with him before he goes and sees the room for himself. So this visitor, he pays some money as advance to the manager and goes to see his room. Let's assume that he goes to the room and comes back. It takes some time because for whatever reason, the lift was not working, whatever reason, it takes some time. In the meanwhile, the manager of the lodge runs to the neighborhood store and pays the money which he has received from the visitor, because he had taken some groceries from that shopkeeper and he had not paid his credit. So whatever money he received from this visitor, he went and gave to the trader. The trader meanwhile runs and gives the money to the farmer, because he had taken money from farmer, the things from farmer for which he had not paid. So he goes to someone else, he goes to someone else, this whole process happens, and finally the cycle will be complete. With the last man running back to the lodge and giving the money because he had stayed there before some time and he had not paid. In the meanwhile, the person who had gone to see the room comes back and says, I don't like the room, give my money back. Takes his money and he goes away. So what happens here is very interesting. The entire town or village, whatever, is completely credit free now. By just transferring money from one hand to other. For people who want to understand how modern economy works, this story actually says in simple terms how money works today. Money has no value if it stays in one place. Money has value only if it flows. We are not interested in money. At least I am not very much interested in analyzing money. What I was trying to say is, economists do have of looking everything through the lens of money and trying to understand the world. Of course, they have other interests also. So when someone is doing the work without taking money, they are puzzled. Why should this man, okay, some women also maybe, work without getting money? This question apparently is answered by so many people, but we are looking at three important researchers and taking together the research outcome of these three researchers and then presenting you the final views. The first paper which we are discussing was by Lakhani and Wolf. Lakhani is a professor of business in Harvard Business School, PhD from MIT. Second is by Rishabh Iyer Ghosh. Rishabh Iyer Ghosh is the only non-economist in this research, but he has done research much beyond economics, as I will discuss. The third research which I will be discussing is Lerner and Tirol's research. Lerner and Tirol, tongue twisting, French. Lerner is also a professor in Harvard, and Tirol works in some university in France, but he is also visiting MIT, so they have worked together. So basically we are seeing the works of major economists who are trying to answer the puzzle of FOSS. Why people contribute? One question. Second question, which is answered exclusively by Rishabh Iyer Ghosh, is who are these people who are contributing? Who? Why and who? Are the two questions being answered? Who others have not answered? Why they have answered? Well, before going into their research, I feel it would be better if we understand the other side of this whole studies. The question of why people do something and what motivates people to do something has been studied from long time. People, especially industrial economics, want to study what should we do to make people work. After all, we are somewhat different from machines, right? Though most of the organizations would like to have machines at work because they can switch on and switch off when they want, we are humans. So we do have consideration apart from all these mechanical things. So what motivates people to work has been a subject of study for a long time. Why do we do whatever we are doing? The question of very generic nature. Why are we studying here? Why are we sitting here? What is the motivation behind? This could be some very good research. Somebody should take up this research. Anybody interested in doing some research and publish paper? You have a wonderful topic. Now, just interview everyone who have taken this course. What is the motivation to take the course? I will be very interested to know. Why did 30 persons out of 180, 160, whatever? Why did they select this course? Why? I am very interested. Some research should go on. Why? I never see 30 in my class anymore. But in the list there were 30 names. Why people are using this course? Please do something. Apart from 10 or 15, I know who are forced to take this course because the other option was closed. That's what I heard. That I know for sure. But the other elective, though people desperately wanted it, they did block it after a point of time and they were forced to take this course. But apart from that, why did people choose this course would be a very interesting study. And actually you can publish paper. If you see the papers which I am discussing, you will see that you can do the same survey here and publish a paper in a very good journal. For example, why there are very less females in sports and why more guys? dominated by alpha male territory. I will be discussing a bit later. But it will be interesting. This is how research is done. I mean, in India, the whole point is we think everything is trivial. That is why we don't come ahead in the research and other things. Abroad, they will do research on anything and everything. Before a few days, I read in newspaper that some person in a very renowned business school has done a research on a very interesting topic as to why the employees of Taj did not escape when the terrorist attack happened. They knew the exit routes very well, the employees of Taj. Why did they escape and save their lives? And why did they stay on and send all the guests out and then they went outside? Somebody did do a research on this. And he concluded that the value system inculcated on these employees was very high. Therefore, they did not run to save their lives. They were all altruistic people and all that noble people. What was very surprising for me was that the guy who did the research was an Indian, was working in a foreign university of Indian origin. He should have known that in India we always do this, right? Anyway, in fact I also know a researcher, unfortunately of Indian origin, again a very famous researcher. I will not take the name because he is no more, a very famous management researcher. He was doing a research on why certain community in India excel in business. And then he discovered, after many years of research and giving expensive speeches all across the globe, that it is the Jain ethics to which that community subscribed to is actually the reason. He should have known previously. Why should I have given multi-million-dollar research to give this research? But anyway, this kind of research goes on, and I seriously suggest you to do this research on why people have taken this course despite all shortcomings. Somebody has to be staying positive of this course, they do positive. Highly irrelevant. No cutting edge technology is discussed. No talk about technology, latest whatever. No marks will be given, everybody knows. People may end up probably with attendance, people know. But still, why have people taken it? We come up with very good research. Who knows? That, see, this kind of research work actually will help you in getting offers from universities abroad. There are many such instances. I can recall an instance wherein we worked with one student. This was long ago. I don't work with students anymore. Once upon a time when we were working with students, we were developing a project in which we were trying to answer this very hypothetical question on how should we plan sending multiple robots to Mars. It was a very hypothetical question. And what should be the optimal size of robots we should be sending to Mars for complete exploration. The kind of discussions we had, we told that student to actually write it down in a paper. Finally, he wrote it down and he sent it to some university. One day when we were again discussing, he suddenly got a call from that university. Half an hour of discussion with some professor. He got an offer to come and do the research. He went there, completed his master's. Before 2 years, completed his PhD also. MIT was in this. This can actually happen. People don't understand. Instead of going through the route of the normal process which people follow, engaging in some kind of explorative research is actually good. As I said, research is good because you are asking some interesting questions. Finding answers is secondary. First of all, you should frame good questions. There is so much scope here in this place to ask such questions. Whether people always are scared because they don't know whether they will reach the right conclusion. That's okay. The question is put somewhere, someone will find an answer for it. Right? Okay, anyway. So this question is also like that. Why should people do something? I mean, why should people study? What is the motivation for people Why should they take up some work? Or why should someone become terrorist? Why should someone become Rajinikanth fan? These are all same questions according to me. What motivates people to take up some work? History of this research is very long and I don't plan to even cover half of it. I will discuss only two important theories which you may have heard before many times. One is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I hope you have heard this many times. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This guy called as Maslow, he came up with hierarchy of needs on why people do something. What are the factors which motivate? He arranged the things in a form of a pyramid, starting from most important, the most basic things to the most abstract things. As usual, most of us know why do we do all this. We do all this because of that only. Very basic physiological needs. Most of the first need which drives every human being is basic physiological needs. We need to eat and all that, basic physiological needs. Then after those things are satisfied, we think of next levels of things. That is, after the basic needs, physical needs are met, then we start thinking about our place in the society, societal needs. How others see us, how should I interact with others. All these things are irrelevant if your physical needs are not met. They should be first met. Once you are sure about that, then you start worrying about the social needs, then love and other things. Maslow has said, I don't know much about that. Then finally, the final need he said was about self-actuation. That is what I feel is the driving factor, I may have said in my previous lectures also. That every person has this feeling of asserting his identity. Most of the things why he does something is because he has to assert his identity. Self-actuation is what Maslow said. So people do things because they have to satisfy these needs. One more interesting theory which has come out of motivation studies was given by Herzberg. He divided the factors which motivate people into two categories. One which he called as hygiene factors, another which he called as motivators. What he said was, hygiene factors are those which should be there. People expect it to be there. But it does not motivate people to do something. Motivators are the actual things which make people go beyond whatever is the normal accepted norm and do some work. Interestingly, Herzberg placed money, compensation, salary in the hygiene category. That means, just because a company is paying more money, it is not necessary that the people working in that company are motivated more to do something. This is very interesting. This theory has come before some 50-60 years, but I don't think everybody has understood this fact very clearly. Usually it does happen that whenever there is a pay hike, there is an expectation that you have to work more and automatically it will lead to more productivity. It does not happen. Mainly because after a point of time, money does not have any role. How much pay package on an average do you guys receive? 4. What's the highest? 13 is highest right now. 13 is highest, 4 is average. Difference is quite, average is quite low. Compared to the highest paid is 13.5. That's what I know. I sometimes actually wonder what do people do with that much money. If somebody gets a pay package of say 13 or whatever later from 25, after satisfying your basic limitations, requirements, then what will you do with the excess? Then you have to keep it worrying. Keep worrying about what to do with that money. Or maybe you can actually, these days in Bangalore it's very easy to spend huge amounts of money. You just go to UBCT once. Go to UBCT once, you do shopping, whatever money you have, you feel is less so. I'm actually very surprised how UBCT kind of place actually can exist in Bangalore, and why is it so busy all the time? Has Bangalore changed so much? I can't understand. Anyway, it's there. Achievement, recognition, the basic nature of work itself has been then recognized, we all recognize, is the basic motivator for people to do something. It's not other things. You see anywhere, any great person achieving something big, he will be motivated by what he calls as a higher calling. Something motivates them to take up that work, which cannot be measured by money, which cannot be compensated by money. Why I am giving this introduction is because this was what was recognized by these researchers when they did research in FOSS. We should all remember that this all research started with one basic question by one person who wrote a letter on why people will work for free. Moving with the traditional research, there is two kinds of motivation which are recognized. One is what is called as intrinsic motivation. Second is extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation means people feel motivated by themselves to do something. Extrinsic motivation is you need some external reward to do something. These are recognized as two motivational factors. Lathani and Wolff, when they did their research on FOSS, identified the same thing. Why people contribute to FOSS? They identified intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. They found the study was like this. Lathani and Wolff interviewed around 600 people. 600 odd people who were contributing to FOSS, and they released their results. I don't want anyone, please remember this very carefully. I don't want anyone to break their head and remember the research figures. I don't want. If you see that paper, there are tables given. I don't want all of you to remember all those numbers. And please don't write them in test or exam. If you understand what the numbers mean, I am more than happy. Lathani and Wolff's research summary was this. They found, fortunately for us, that intrinsic motivation overtakes extrinsic motivation in FOSS. What does that mean? They identified two kinds of intrinsic motivation. Why do people contribute to FOSS? Intrinsic motivation, they identified two things. Of course, they use data mining technique and clustering technique. You may be knowing what it means. They found 4 clusters. The dominant clusters were these two. Intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation for people to contribute to FOSS was 1. The sheer enjoyment of working. Why people contribute to FOSS is because they like contributing. They love coding. That is why they contribute to FOSS. This is what majority of the people said. The second intrinsic motivation for people was a sense of obligation towards community. You know, it always happens. When you are in the class, somebody gives a proxy and the attendance is called. And the teacher asks, stand up, who has given the proxy? Nobody will stand up. Because we all feel that unity and other things, and we should all stand together, bhaichara, dosti and all those things. That sense of community is one of the basic instincts of humans. So here also it was reflected. that most people contribute to FOSS because they feel a sense of obligation that they have received so much from FOSS, so they should give back something to the FOSS. So the two major intrinsic motivation for people to contribute to FOSS were: one, the sheer enjoyment to do the work, and second, an obligation towards community. In fact, the same thing is told by Eric Raymond in a very different language. I remember that I have reserved some 15 marks or so in this course for reading. Are you guys reading? Yes. What? See, I hope all of you understand that there is actually a very high probability of people failing in this course also. Just because people are in 8th semester and all does not mean that everybody will be pushed. There is a probability of people failing here also. Getting X grade is very probable. Getting F grade is also a probability. There is a high probability. Only sure probability is that nobody will get S grade. That is sure. That is sure. It is very surprising. I have handled so many courses. I was just observing. None of my courses ever. There is no S grade at all. Nobody has taken S grade in these many subjects which I have handled. Is there anyone? I don't think so. Ever. From 3rd semester to A grade. Huh? A grade. No S grade. This time you get. Impossible. Impossible. Because I feel in absolute, in relative yes, I do think that yes is a possibility. But in absolute grading, getting S grade is somewhat I am not very much for. I don't know how people can get S grade. Seriously. I mean, how do people get 9.8? What is I say? 9.8. Such high CGPA, I don't know. 10. 10.
CS.
The teacher should be hanged. The teachers who give such much don't receive any, don't deserve any mercy. They should be hanged. And there is no way. How can somebody? For me, 9 itself is too much. Why should somebody get 9? It's teachers' fault, not students. Teachers should not. Teachers should, when they do the absolute grading, they have to be very, very careful. How can somebody get absolute 50 for 50 or 100 for 100? I don't understand. Whatever is subjective, even in mathematics. Even in mathematics, I don't believe that giving out of out is actually justified. No way it can be justified. People say programming it is justified. For example, say you write a program, and if it works, you give out of out. How is it possible for you to give out of out? Have you checked the program correctly? Yes. How many inputs have you given? 3, 4. Oh, does it mean that it works forever? It is impossible. For example, I keep on saying that finding whether a number is prime or not. What is the method we are using? Isn't it brute force? What is the computation resource required for running such a program? Why should a teacher give out of out for somebody who is writing that particular program? I don't understand. Anyway, it works. Now, 10 is a big, I should find out who has 10 out of 10. I'll get a list. What will I do? But anyway, it's quite surprising, but 9 point itself is very high for me. Why am I discussing about credits now? Motivation to take course. Motivation to take this course. I've just lost the link about thinking about 10.